Hello, welcome to this installment of CGU's Center for Writing and Rhetoric 7-minute video series. I'm going to try to stay within 7 minutes with this one. This one is called Literature Review Mechanics, and like always, it has an accompanying handout. So if you don't have that handout already, please visit our website, cgu.edu/write. Go to our online resources tab and download the handout of the same name, Literature Review Mechanics. As I begin this one, I want to mention that a lot of this information is pulled from Telling a Research Story, Writing a Literature Review by Christine B. Feek and John M. Swales, published by the University of Michigan in 2009. This is a great source text for learning more about literature reviews in general. It informs a lot of the work that we do at the Center for Writing and Rhetoric, and I highly recommend taking a look at it to go a bit deeper into certain elements of a literature review beyond the mechanics, structure, and analysis that we talk about in these videos. So for mechanics, today I'm going to talk about mainly metadiscourse, integral and non-integral citations, verb tense, and briefly reporting verbs. Metadiscourse is discourse about discourse, technically speaking. In this case, it is parts of the text that are referring to other parts of the text. It is a key mechanical element of literature reviews because, like the other elements as well, they all share a similar purpose. They reduce the cognitive burden on your reader. And this is important in literature reviews especially because they present literature reviews as a genre present a lot of information in a short space, in a short span of time, right? Over a few pages or over, let's say, 15, 20 pages in a chapter length literature review, you are going to touch on a number of different subtopics utilizing a lot of different source texts. And this process can place a heavy burden on the reader. They have to absorb and understand a lot of new information. So you want to use certain mechanical elements to reduce the load on the reader as much as possible. Metadiscourse does this through future projections, present orientations, and recapitulations. So it's simpler than the name metadiscourse sounds. A future projection is something like, in this section, I will discuss, or this part will describe, or in the next section, we will cover blank topic. Present orientations are referring to what you're going to talk about right now. So it's at this point the reader may recognize blank. Recapitulations, the past. The main purpose of this review has been, thus far the review has outlined blank, but now I'm going to talk about blank. So this is routinely used in the introductory section as part of a map, laying out what's going to happen from that point forward. They're often used at the end of sections to either summarize what has just been or touch back on a key point of that previous section, or importantly to transition and to link into the next section. And they're often used at the beginning of sections, as you might imagine. So these are transitional elements a lot of the time, and they can be very helpful. Though simple, they can be very helpful in providing a mechanical structure that reduces the cognitive load on the reader. They know quite explicitly, because you're telling them what is being talked about when. What's just been talked about, pay a bit more attention, I'm mentioning it again, or what will be for an important reason. Integral and non-integral citations are the two main ways of referring to previous scholarship mechanically within a literature review. Integral citations should be thought of as author prominent. So these are when you state the author's names within a sentence, and you cite the specific study you're referring to just by utilizing in APA style the year, page number maybe. So the examples we have here are things like, according to J et al., in parentheses 2006, about 25%, or something has been extensively studied by Ikamada, 2017 or 2007. You are highlighting the authors instead of the topic of the research or the outcomes of the research or the most important points of the research. You are bringing the authors front and center by integrating the citation in an author prominent way. The non-integral citation is the inverse, right? It's the research prominent form. So some examples are research has illustrated that blank, and then you'll probably have a citation in parentheses of a few different studies, right? With the author's names and years in there. Our research indicates that. Our blank has been extensively studied. And then just, instead of having the author's name after that, you just have parentheses with, specific pieces of research. This is bringing the research to the forefront, pushing aside who did the research so much and just highlighting what the research actually was. And you want to use both of these. The non-integral is typically more common, but you want to use both of these to the effect of what you want to highlight. This is one of the ways in a literature review that you are able to have some voice, some say in placing more emphasis on something or less emphasis on something else. Verb tense is an interesting one. Swales and Feek in their analysis have found that 2/3 of all citations are either done in past, present, perfect, or present. And there is not a ton of correspondence as to which is correct, in certain fields there are certain patterns, but a lot of the time you are going to find that all three of these will work in many different instances. Past is just simple past. Arslan investigated, biodiesel was shown. The most common pattern here is that the past is typically used to reference a single study and with an integral reference. So that is going to be with an author prominent reference. The present perfect, there have been several investigations, or many researchers have investigated, is typically a non-integral, right? There have been several investigations, or many researchers. So it's a non-integral citation, and it's usually referencing an area of study, not a single study. Present is most commonly used to reference a generally accepted piece of knowledge in a field. So the scarcity of known petroleum reserves is making renewable, etc., right? So it is present tense because there's some assumption that the audience has some understanding of the point. Reporting verbs, I highly recommend taking a look at the table here. This was again based on an analysis to find, key reporting verbs and their frequency across different disciplines. As you'll see, there's a good deal of variance across harder and softer sciences as they split them up here. And a key element of style is to use a variety of these. So even though you might see, these might be a helpful guide in seeing what's most common in your discipline, in your field, for stylistic purposes, you want to vary. You want to vary both the verb tense and the reporting verbs you use in order to make your writing more interesting for your reader.